The numbers of Ohioans filing for unemployment have dropped for the fourth straight week, but hundreds of thousands are still out of work, and tens of thousands still haven't seen the unemployment benefits they applied for weeks and even months ago. And most say they need the money that's owed to keep food on their tables and a roof over their heads. As we heard from homeless and low-income housing advocate Bill Faith last week, August is going to be a bad month for evictions. Statehouse correspondent Jo Ingles talked to some who feel left behind by a system that's supposed to help them in a time like this.
Columbus resident Stephanie Lawrence has 5 kids. She says things have been spiraling out of control for all of them since she lost her job in March. She tried to get unemployment, but couldn't because the agency sent paperwork with the wrong name on it, and she couldn't get through to anyone who could correct the problem.
I've called unemployment over 500 times. To the point where I sit there and my kids be laughing. I could tell you the whole unemployment music when they tell you to hold. I didn't figure out how to push 2 for Spanish and I ain't never speak Spanish in my life. But I figured out how to, get to the system.
But she hasn't been able to figure out how to come up with the rent without the unemployment income. And now she's 4 months behind and facing eviction. She's picked up another job now, but fears she can't get caught up. Nicole Hutchinson of Columbus says she's lucky she and her husband have made ends meet with their savings and stimulus check, but she says it's been hard. She says she's also struggled to file unemployment since she was laid off in March, but there was a problem with the personal identification number she needed to use to complete the paperwork. She also couldn't get in touch with someone who could help.
But then I would try to call, and I think I called at one point, it was 34 days straight, and was on hold for at least an hour to an hour and a half every time. And I have a 2-year-old, so I can't be on hold all day. So I finally, I don't know what happened with the website, but I just kept checking every day to see if it would change. And finally it let me register for a PIN, and I got that.
But she hasn't yet got an unemployment check for the time when the salon where she once worked was closed. Unlike Hutchinson, many who work at salons, bars, and restaurants, and people who are independent contractors or self-employed didn't qualify for traditional unemployment. They had to wait until the state set up a system to pay federally funded pandemic unemployment assistance in April. Since then, the state has paid $4.9 billion in PUA to more than 500,000 Ohioans. But the state recently announced it was holding more than 250,000 of those claims that it suspects are scammers that have hit other states and are costing them billions. Not all of those are fraudulent claims. Around 20,000 have been released and will be paid, but the rest have not. Bob Bauer of Pataskala is back to work now, but he was off for 2 months while the stay-at-home order was in effect. He filed for unemployment back then, but has yet to see one dime of it. And when he's called to check on his claim, he hasn't been able to get through.
I've tried early in the morning before they open to try to get first in line. I've tried middle of the day. I've tried end of the day. I was off for 2 months, so I had a lot of time to try, and I just never had no success.
Bauer says he went through savings to stay afloat while he was off work. He says friends who were also laid off have filed, but tell him they also haven't received unemployment checks. The state says it's paid $5.9 billion in regular unemployment assistance to over 771,000 Ohioans, but more than 82,000 people like Bauer haven't received a check at all. Their claims are listed as pending. I asked the head of the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services why people haven't been able to get through to get their problems solved and their checks issued.
We are actually improving in our calls answered and calls handled since March, certainly. We're getting better and better every day at that processing. The volume is tremendous. It really is. And then also we have complexity with claims. If we have individuals who still have claims that are pending since March, there are complexities there that are definitely requiring and taking more time. But we have gotten better with our call handling volume. Our phone system is improving in terms of allowing for self-service and utilizing chatbot features, etc. I regret that we can't take every call the moment that it comes through. That would require a tremendous number of agents and a tremendous amount of money that, frankly, the state doesn't have and the federal government hasn't given to states. So we keep working diligently every day to move forward with processing claims and getting the calls through.
More than 404,000 Ohioans filed continued claims in the last week, meaning they're still jobless. And others, like Bauer, are still hoping the state will make good on a promise early on, that when unemployment claims are approved, all the money from when they lost their jobs will come.
I'm just patiently waiting, and if I can find somebody to help me out, that's great. If not, I'll just keep being patient.
The state says some people have been able to get help from Ohio Means Job Centers, but with most state employees working from home right now, reaching someone at those centers is difficult. Jo Ingles, Statehouse News Bureau.